Welcome back to Fiction Flux. Today, we're kicking off a brand new topic that's sure to spice things up. What if Sukuna, the king of curses from Jujutsu Kaisen, were suddenly teleported into the My Hero Academia universe and ended up joining the League of Villains? Plug in your headphones, dive into the world of chaos, and get ready for some intense battles, dark humor, and unpredictable twists. Let's jump right in and see what happens when two worlds collide. The battlefield cracked and shattered under the force of Gojo and Sukuna's clash. Blinding blue flashes from Gojo's limitless technique collided with the blood-red, cursed slashes of Sukuna, shaking the entire landscape. Sukuna grinned wildly, fangs bared, his forearms slicing the air with ruthless precision. "Come on, Gojo. Is that all the so-called honored one has?" Gojo smirked, adjusting his blindfold, energy crackling around him. "Nah, I'm just getting started." As their powers clashed one more time, a swirling black portal suddenly tore open beneath Sukuna's feet. He blinked in surprise but barely had time to curse before he was sucked in, vanishing from the battlefield. With a thud, Sukuna crashed onto a dusty floor, surrounded by unfamiliar faces. Shigaraki, mid-scratch of his neck, jumped back, startled. Toga squealed in excitement, while Dabi raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "Who the hell is this clown?" Dabi muttered. Sukuna sat up, looking around with mild amusement. "TCH. Where the hell did you all crawl out from? You look like a bad cosplay group." Shigaraki stepped forward, scowling. "You're in the League of Villains, hideout. Identify yourself." Sukuna stretched lazily, cracking his neck. "I'm your worst nightmare, and maybe your best hope if you play your cards right, crusty boy." Toga giggled uncontrollably. "Ooh, I like him already." Dabi snorted. "Bold words. Got anything to back it up?" Sukuna grinned, standing up and waving a hand lazily. The wall behind Dabi exploded into rubble with just a flick of cursed energy. Everyone stared, mouths agape. Shigaraki, trying to save face, crossed his arms. "Fine, you're strong, but can you work as a team?" Sukuna laughed so hard he nearly doubled over. "Team, please. Watch and learn, amateurs." He marched up to their meeting board, took one look at their carefully laid out plan to attack Uehai, and ripped it off the wall. "This plan sucks. Here's a better one. We go in loud, we go in fast, and we wreck everything." Toga clapped like an excited child. "Yay, chaos." The next day, Uehai's defenses barely had time to react before Sukuna, riding a massive wave of cursed energy like a demonic surfer, smashed through the front gate, laughing maniacally. Students screamed, teachers scrambled, alarms blared. Sukuna flicked a finger, sending a group of pro-heroes flying like bowling pins. Shigaraki and the others followed, trying to keep up with the pure madness. "This wasn't the plan," Shigaraki shouted. "This is the plan," Sukuna bellowed back. Suddenly, a ripple tore through the air, and stepping out of a portal was none other than Satoru Gojo, sunglasses gleaming under the sun. "Yo, Sukuna. Miss me?" Sukuna's grin widened. "Took you long enough, pretty boy." The students stared in horror and confusion. "Who are these lunatics?" Gojo cracked his knuckles. "All right, since you're making a mess in someone else's playground, I'm gonna have to kick your ass." Sukuna smirked. "You can try, Gojo-senpai." Shigaraki, standing awkwardly between them, cleared his throat. Excuse me, we're in the middle of something here." Sukuna and Gojo both turned to him and, in perfect sync, blasted him backward into a vending machine. Toga was rolling on the ground laughing. Dabi sighed, lighting up a fresh flame in his palm. "This is officially the dumbest invasion ever." Meanwhile, Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki prepared to defend the school, completely ignoring the League and focusing entirely on the real monsters now facing off in their courtyard. As Gojo and Sukuna clashed once more, the sheer force of their battle accidentally inspired the students. Watching Gojo hold his ground against such overwhelming power, the students felt their spirits ignite. "We can do this," Deku shouted. "We can protect Ua." Sukuna, mid-swing, laughed. "Look at that. I'm a motivational speaker now. Maybe I'll start a YouTube channel after I kill all of you." Gojo grinned. "Yeah, step 1. Learn not to suck." Their fists collided, sending shockwaves across the city. Behind them, the League of Villains bickered over snacks stolen from the Ua cafeteria. Toga tried to tie Sukuna's hair into pigtails mid-fight, and Dabi debated whether he should just set the whole school on fire and call it a day. It was chaos, it was madness, and it was exactly the kind of party Sukuna loved. Sukuna swung a cursed energy blade at Gojo, who casually leaned back, dodging it with insulting ease. "You getting slow, old man," Gojo teased, sticking out his tongue like a taunting child. Sukuna snorted. "I'll tear that smug face off, pretty boy." Their blows shook the entire UA campus, windows shattering, students ducking for cover behind walls and overturned desks. Somewhere in the chaos, Mineta was crying under a cafeteria table. Meanwhile, the League of Villains watched the battle with mixed emotions. "So, do we help or just eat snacks?" Toga asked, her mouth full of stolen cupcakes. "I say we let them kill each other and pick up the pieces," Dabi said, kicking back on a bench now half melted by his flames. Shigaraki, twitching with barely concealed rage, growled, "We're supposed to be the ones destroying UA, not these idiots." Suddenly, Sukuna, mid-battle, turned toward them with a wicked grin. "Oi, Krusty," he called to Shigaraki. "Watch closely. This is how you leave a message." With a snap of his fingers, cursed energy exploded outward in a terrifying wave, carving a giant, laughing mouth into the very ground of UA's front yard. "Courtesy of yours truly. No need to thank me." Toga clapped gleefully. "It's so cute. It's smiling." Gojo facepalmed. "You're turning terrorism into modern art now. Fantastic." Sukuna winked. "Maybe I'll sign it next time." The teachers, meanwhile, tried to rally. Aizawa wrapped his capture scarf around Sukuna's arm, trying to erase his cursed energy. Sukuna, mildly annoyed, simply flexed, shattering the scarf into tatters. "Cute trick. Try harder." Midnight attempted to put Sukuna to sleep with her quirk, only for him to yawn dramatically. "You're gonna have to do better than perfume and fishnets, sweetheart," he teased, blowing her a kiss. Midnight turned bright red with rage, launching her whip at him, but Gojo intercepted, grinning. "Sorry, ladies. This one's my headache." As the fight escalated, Sukuna grew increasingly chaotic, grabbing a random desk and hurling it like a missile at Present Mike, who barely dodged, screaming, "This is not what I signed up for." All Might, still retired but watching from a distance, sighed heavily. When did villain attacks become this insane? In the background, Bakugo, teeth grinding, shouted, "Move it, extras. I'm blowing that demon freak up." Todoroki calmly formed massive ice walls to protect the first years, while Deku frantically strategized. "We need to support Gojo-sensei somehow." Uraraka floated a giant chunk of rubble with her quirk and hurled it toward Sukuna. Sukuna caught it with one hand, grinning, and used it as a chair mid-battle, kicking back while Gojo glared. "Seriously?" Gojo muttered. Sukuna laughed. "What? Thought I'd give the kiddos a show." He pointed lazily at the students. "I like that one," he said, nodding toward Bakugo, who immediately exploded a nearby tree out of pure rage. "Spicy." Toga bounced on her heels. "Can I stab one, please?" Shigaraki sighed. "We're the villains and somehow we're the sane ones today." As the fight between Sukuna and Gojo reached new levels of absurdity, portals began opening all over the campus. Kurogiri appeared, trying to bring the league back. "It is no longer safe to stay," Kurogiri advised calmly. Sukuna, overhearing this, shouted, "Ah, you're leaving." But the party just started. In a flash, he zipped across the battlefield and slapped a cursed mark on Kurogiri's portal mid-teleport, causing it to malfunction and open random rifts. One portal dumped Spinner into the UA girls' locker room, followed by a high-pitched scream and a flying shoe. Another sucked Dabi's coat into oblivion, leaving him shirtless and very annoyed. "You owe me a jacket, freak," Dabi growled. Sukuna cackled. "Cry about it, hot stuff." Meanwhile, Gojo landed next to Deku, crouching. "Hey, Green Bean," he said, flashing a quick grin. "Mind doing me a favor?" Deku nodded frantically. "Anything." Gojo pointed at Sukuna. "Annoy him. Distract him. Talk about feelings or something. You're good at that, right?" Deku, confused but determined, ran forward yelling, "Your actions are hurting innocent people and that's really bad." Sukuna turned, stared blankly, then laughed so hard he doubled over, giving Gojo the opening he needed to land a devastating punch square in Sukuna's face. The ground crumbled beneath them from the force. Dabi crossed his arms. "Remind me again why we thought teaming up with this guy was a good idea." Shigaraki, nose bleeding from earlier, muttered, desperation. Lots and lots of desperation. Suddenly, Sukuna, rubbing his jaw with a wicked grin, floated into the air, massive cursed energy gathering around him like a hurricane. Fine then, if you want me gone so bad, he roared. His voice cracked the very sky, his power expanding wildly. The heroes braced, the villains cowered, the students screamed, and just as it seemed Sukuna would annihilate everything, a giant paper sign fluttered down onto his face. Written in bold marker was, "Deku's friendship speeches suck." Sukuna froze, ripping the sign off and glaring at Gojo, who waved innocently. Gotta admit, that was pretty distracting. With a roar of laughter, Sukuna let his energy collapse harmlessly into a small puff of wind. Fine, you win this round, he said, turning toward a portal now opened properly by Kurogiri. But next time, I'm leveling this dump. He strutted through the portal like a rock star leaving a concert, flipping everyone off on the way out. Toga chased after him giggling, Dabi sighed deeply and followed, and Shigaraki limped behind, muttering curses under his breath. As peace awkwardly settled over Uehai again, Gojo stood in the rubble, dusting off his jacket. Well, he said with a grin, that was fun. Who's up for ramen? The students all collapsed at once in a heap of exhaustion as Gojo laughed and wandered off, leaving a very broken, very confused, and very grateful Ua in his wake. Back at the League of Villains hideout, things were tense. Sukuna kicked open the door like he owned the place, tossing Shigaraki's treasured meeting table across the room without a second thought. All right, losers, listen up. Sukuna barked, grinning ear to ear. If we're gonna take over this world, we're gonna do it my way. Shigaraki, still nursing a bruised ego and several actual bruises, growled, "You're not in charge here." Sukuna cracked his knuckles, stepping dangerously close. Really? 'Cause I don't see anyone else strong enough to stop me, scratches. Dabi leaned against the wall, arms crossed, amusement flickering in his mismatched eyes. Honestly, I wanna see where this goes. Maybe it'll be less boring than your usual tantrums. Toga was already sold, skipping circles around Sukuna. Does this mean we get to kill more people? Sukuna patted her head like she was a hyper puppy. You're my new favorite. Toga practically vibrated with joy. Shigaraki tried to pull himself together. Fine, you think you can do better. Prove it. Sukuna grinned like a shark. Gladly. First lesson, no more sneaking around like cockroaches. If you want the world's attention, you gotta punch it in the face. He pulled out a crumpled blueprint of Tartarus prison he'd yoinked off the internet mid-portal malfunction. Step 1, he said, stabbing a finger into the map, we bust out every psycho, villain, and monster locked away in here. Step 2, he dramatically flexed, causing a nearby lamp to shatter from the cursed energy. We throw the biggest, bloodiest party this world's ever seen. Toga clapped enthusiastically. Dabi chuckled darkly. Even Spinner gave a hesitant nod. Only Shigaraki looked like he wanted to vomit. Sukuna, sensing the hesitation, smirked. Come on, Dusty. You wanted to tear society down, right? I'm just speeding up the process. You should be thanking me. Shigaraki gritted his teeth so hard it was a miracle they didn't crack. Fine, he hissed. One screw up and I'm vaporizing you. Sukuna leaned in, inches from Shigaraki's face. I like you, Krusty. You've got spirit. Shigaraki flinched at the overwhelming cursed energy rolling off Sukuna like an invisible tidal wave. Later that night, the League, now unofficially renamed by Sukuna as the Party Crashers, to Shigaraki's horror, gathered supplies for the Tartarus raid. Sukuna wandered into Dabi's room, looked around at the scorched, half-destroyed decor, and whistled. Nice vibe. Edgy. Depressing. Very you. Dabi rolled his eyes. You break anything, I burn you alive. Sukuna just laughed. I like you too, hot topic. Meanwhile, Toga begged Sukuna to teach her some cool curse techniques. He gave her a quick lesson that ended with half the hideout missing a roof and Spinner stuck halfway into a wall. That was awesome. Toga screamed. Spinner, dangling helplessly, was less enthusiastic. By morning, their plan was ready, if you could call it that. Dabi and Toga loaded up a stolen truck with explosives. Spinner manned a literal giant slingshot they built out of stolen gym equipment. And Sukuna stood atop the truck, arms folded, looking like a conquering demon king, his cursed markings glowing faintly under the rising sun. Let's go break some toys. He roared. They blasted through Tartarus, outer defenses like paper. Guards screamed, alarms blared, but nothing stopped Sukuna. He ripped open prison cells with his bare hands, releasing villains left and right. Muscular. Freed. Moonfish. Freed. Overhaul. Sukuna looked him over, laughed, and punted him back into his cell. Nah, too boring. As chaos spread, the League worked surprisingly well under Sukuna's insane leadership. Toga stabbed 3 guards gleefully. Dabi melted steel doors like butter. Spinner somehow ran over a security robot with the slingshot. And Shigaraki gritted his teeth and went along with it, knowing full well they were achieving in hours what he couldn't do in months. Even if it meant listening to Sukuna's endless stream of trash talk. Back at UA, Gojo picked up the news from a TV in the teacher's lounge. Oh for F, he sighed, grabbing his jacket. Looks like round 2's starting, kiddos. He said cheerfully to the horrified teachers behind him. Aizawa sighed so deeply it might have caused a small earthquake. As Gojo stepped through a portal to chase after Sukuna, he couldn't help but grin. You know, he said to no one in particular, as far as vacations go. This one's turning out pretty fun. The League's hideout had been upgraded, or at least, that's what Sukuna called it. Really, it was a half-destroyed shopping mall that Sukuna renovated by blasting massive holes through the walls and carving his symbol into the food court floor. Toga was happily living in the old ice cream shop. Spinner claimed the arcade even if most games were broken, and Dabi just set up a hammock wherever there was enough rubble to hang it from. Shigaraki sat in what used to be the manager's office, staring blankly at the chaos outside, wondering how his life had turned into a cursed sitcom. Suddenly, the ceiling above the food court exploded, showering debris everywhere. Gojo landed in the middle of the chaos, sunglasses gleaming, striking a dramatic pose. Hey, party crashers, he called, miss me. Toga squealed. It's the handsome teacher. Sukuna sauntered out of a ruined subway shop, holding a half-eaten sandwich. Look who finally showed up, he said, mouth full. Took you long enough, Gojo. What were you doing, fixing your hair? Gojo flashed a smug smile. Takes effort to look this good while saving the world, Sukuna. He turned, addressing the villains casually. Okay, kiddos. Here's the deal. You can surrender now. He adjusted his shades. Or you can get absolutely wrecked. Your choice. Shigaraki immediately lunged, hand outstretched. Sukuna stepped in the way, flicking Shigaraki's forehead so hard he flew backward into a pile of old chairs. Sit down, Krusty. Adults are talking. Gojo clapped. Wow, you're even better at babysitting than Aizawa. Toga tried to stab Gojo with a knife, but he dodged without looking, causing her to spin herself dizzy and crash into a frozen yogurt machine. Is he flirting with me or fighting me? She screamed delightedly. Dabi unleashed a torrent of blue flames at Gojo. Gojo casually walked through it, using infinity to part the flames like Moses parting the Red Sea. Nice campfire. Got marshmallows. Sukuna chuckled, tossing his sandwich aside. Alright, Gojo. Round 2. Try not to embarrass yourself this time. They clashed in the food court, flipping tables, smashing storefronts, and using destroyed signs as weapons. Gojo at one point swung an entire bench like a baseball bat. Sukuna countered by grabbing a giant pizza sign and using it as a shield. Toga, watching with sparkling eyes, whispered, best date ever. Spinner tried to help by hurling a broken arcade machine at Gojo. Gojo caught it mid-air, spun it around like a top, and launched it straight back, trapping Spinner inside the machine. Muffled from inside, Spinner groaned, I hate everything. Dabi blasted more flames but Sukuna shoved him aside. Don't steal my thunder, hot topic. Sukuna roared. Meanwhile, Shigaraki was attempting to formulate a plan, only for Sukuna to casually slap a cursed mark on his back that made him spin like a top every time he tried to activate decay. I'm gonna kill you, Shigaraki screamed, spinning helplessly across the food court. As the battle raged, Sukuna decided to crank up the insanity. He summoned a massive cursed construct, a giant clown made of shadows, and sent it lurching toward Gojo. Gojo burst out laughing. A clown, really? He shouted, dodging a massive balloon-shaped fist. Sukuna grinned. Thought it would fit the theme. You're the main act after all. The clown swung wildly, causing total chaos. Toga jumped onto its back like it was a rodeo bull. Dabi tried to burn it but ended up setting part of the ceiling on fire. Shigaraki spun past, screaming obscenities. Gojo, laughing so hard he could barely stand straight, finally clapped his hands together. Alright, playtime's over. In a flash, he activated Hollow Purple, the massive swirling blast tearing straight through the clown, through the food court, and through several parking structures beyond. The explosion shook the entire block. Dust and rubble rained down. When it cleared, Sukuna stood there, clothes torn, hair wild, grinning ear to ear. Now that's more like it, he said, flexing his shoulders. You ready for round 3? Gojo cracked his knuckles. Bring it, tattoo boy. From the rubble, Toga cheered. I ship them. Spinner groaned from inside the arcade machine. Dabi just lay on the ground, staring at the sky. Should have joined a normal villain group, he muttered. One with less clowns. Shigaraki, still spinning in the background like a malfunctioning Beyblade, screamed, I hate all of you. And with that, the battle of pure chaos roared to even crazier heights. Sukuna and Gojo clashed again, the ground trembling with each blow. Their punches sent shockwaves that shattered windows blocks away. Cursed energy and limitless clashed, distorting the air around them like a mirage. Gojo ducked under a spinning kick, grabbing a broken food court tray and slapping Sukuna across the face with it. The metallic clang echoed. Sukuna froze, blinking slowly. Did you just hit me with a lunch tray? Gojo shrugged. Gotta use the environment. Hero Training 101. Sukuna growled, rubbing his cheek. You're gonna pay for that, pretty boy. Meanwhile, Dabi, Toga, and Spinner regrouped behind an overturned taco stand. Toga was drawing little hearts on the stand with her knife, humming to herself. Spinner wiped dust off his armor, muttering, we should leave. Now. Like right now. Dabi stared at the battlefield, flames flickering at his fingertips. Are you kidding? I'm not missing this. This is better than TV. Sukuna unleashed a barrage of slashing cursed techniques, carving through concrete like butter. Gojo weaved through them, fingers crackling with blue and purple energy. In a moment of pure chaos, Sukuna picked up a giant plastic burger statue and hurled it like a meteor. Gojo smirked and punched straight through it, pieces of fake lettuce and tomato raining down like confetti. Is food your theme now? Gojo teased. I'm hungry for your defeat. Sukuna roared dramatically, only for Gojo to burst out laughing midair. From across the battlefield, Shigaraki, finally dizzy and furious enough, stumbled toward them. He placed a trembling hand on the ground, activating decay. The tiles cracked and crumbled outward in a devastating wave. Sukuna leapt into the air, landing next to Gojo mid-fight. Team up? Sukuna asked, grinning. Gojo rolled his eyes. Don't make it weird. Together, they launched off opposite directions, effortlessly dodging the crumbling ruin. Shigaraki screamed in rage, trying to catch either of them, but Sukuna casually slapped a cursed seal on his back again, making Shigaraki's arm go limp like a noodle. Spinner watched the scene, horrified. He's bullying Shigaraki again. Toga cheered, waving a half-melted popsicle like a flag. Go Sukuna. Destroy or love him. Both work. Gojo teleported behind Sukuna with sheer speed, aiming a surprise kick. Sukuna caught his leg mid-air, spinning and tossing Gojo through the old JCPenney wall. Gojo crashed through mannequins, popping up wearing a pink feather boa. He adjusted his shades, unfazed. Fashion upgrade. Thanks, Sukuna. Laughing uncontrollably, Sukuna barely dodged Gojo's next hollow purple. The blast tore through the shopping mall's roof, sending birds and terrified seagulls scattering. Far above, All Might, Eraserhead, and other pro-heroes watched from a helicopter, horrified. Sir, the pilot whispered, should we go down there? All Might paled. No. Let's wait. I'm not fighting two lunatics hopped up on chaos. Back on the ground, Sukuna decided it was time to go all out. He slammed both fists into the ground, creating a cursed domain, his own warped, twisted arena. Walls of shadow, demonic faces, and floating blades filled the entire mall. The League of Villains got trapped inside, staring around in terror. Gojo's grin widened. Finally. Now we're talking. Toga danced around the shadows, giggling like she was at an amusement park. Spinner crouched behind a broken claw machine, clutching a teddy bear for emotional support. Dabi stood there, letting shadowy flames lick up his arms, muttering, "This is fine. This is fine." Inside the domain, Sukuna towered over everyone, arms folded. "I'm feeling generous today. I'll give you a 5-second head start." Gojo smirked. "You're adorable when you think you have a chance." Before Sukuna could even finish counting, Gojo blurred forward, grabbing a massive floating cursed sword out of the air and swinging it at him. Sukuna dodged, sending a barrage of slicing attacks that shattered the cursed constructs around them like glass. They fought like titans, reality itself bending under their attacks. Toga, bouncing excitedly, shouted, "Best cursed date ever." Dabi, covered in soot and dust, yelled at Spinner, "Why are you still hugging that bear?" Spinner hissed, "It's comforting, okay." The battle raged on until finally Gojo and Sukuna collided fists midair, creating a shockwave that blew the entire cursed domain apart like a popped balloon. The villains were flung backward, landing in a tangled heap of limbs, rubble, and melted shopping carts. Sukuna and Gojo stood there, bruised, battered, grinning like lunatics. "You're not bad, pretty boy," Sukuna panted. "You're not bad yourself, Demon King," Gojo replied. Suddenly, sirens blared in the distance. Hundreds of pro-heroes were storming the ruins. Shigaraki, finally managing to stumble upright, screamed, "Everyone retreat." Toga sighed dramatically. "But we were just getting to the good part." Dabi grabbed her by the collar, dragging her toward an escape route. Spinner limped after them, still clutching the teddy bear. Sukuna watched them run, unimpressed. He turned to Gojo. "So, wanna team up and wreck their reinforcements first?" Gojo laughed, pushing up his shades. "Thought you'd never ask." And with twin insane grins, the strongest sorcerer and the king of curses charged straight at the incoming heroes, ready to turn the world upside down all over again. Pro-heroes charged from every street, rooftop, and alleyway, forming a shimmering wall of quirks ready to crush any villain in their path. Endeavor, leading the charge with flames roaring, pointed at Sukuna and Gojo. "Villains, stand down, or we'll bring you down." Gojo waved casually. "Hi there. Minor correction. He's the villain." He jerked a thumb at Sukuna. "I'm just visiting." Sukuna cracked his neck, grinning. "I'm everybody's problem." Endeavor didn't wait for a second longer. He launched a massive jet of hellfire at both of them. Sukuna, delighted, clapped his hands together and split the flames apart with a cursed slash. Gojo simply strolled through the gap, hands in his pockets, smirking. Behind them, the League of Villains peeked out from a destroyed pretzel stand. Spinner whimpered, "We should really be running faster." Toga stabbed a pretzel into her mouth like a sword. "But this is so much fun to watch." Dabi, deadpan, flicked a spark off his finger. "If they kill Endeavor, that's just a bonus." Sukuna didn't wait for introductions. He leapt forward and slammed his foot into the ground, summoning a cursed construct of a giant skeletal dragon. The dragon roared, sweeping through the heroes like a storm, forcing them to scatter in panic. Mount Lady tried to stomp it, only for the dragon to coil around her ankle and send her tumbling into a nearby building. "Oops," Sukuna said mockingly. "Big girl go boom." Gojo, meanwhile, elegantly dodged Smintas's walls and Kamui Woods' binding attacks, moving like a phantom. He grabbed a vine midair, swung around like a gymnast, and kicked Kamui Woods into a pile of trash cans. From the helicopter above, All Might gaped. They're playing with them." Aizawa sighed heavily, already regretting getting out of bed this morning. "Someone get midnight," he grunted. "And maybe a tactical nuke." Sukuna was having the time of his life. He grabbed a chunk of the road, hurled it like a discus, and sent multiple heroes diving for cover. One unlucky hero got trapped under a fallen hot dog cart, waving a white napkin in surrender. Meanwhile, Gojo pulled out his phone mid-fight, taking a selfie with an incoming blast frozen inches from his face thanks to infinity. He sent it to the sorcerers back home with the caption, "Wish you were here." Total madness. 10 out of 10. Sukuna and Gojo eventually found themselves back to back, surrounded by dozens of heroes, quirks ready to fire. Sukuna grinned. "How about a little combo move?" Gojo flashed a wicked smile. "Read my mind." Together, they unleashed a horrifying fusion of cursed energy and limitless technique. Sukuna summoned hundreds of cursed blades midair, while Gojo manipulated the space between them, turning the area into a maze of flying death. Heroes scrambled in every direction, shouting and tripping over each other. Present Mike tried to blast them with sound waves, but Sukuna flicked a blade straight into his speaker, short-circuiting it with a sad fizzling noise. Quiet, karaoke boy, Sukuna snorted. Deku, arriving late to the chaos, stood frozen for a second as he watched Gojo juggle 20 knives mid-air like a circus act while Sukuna rode his shadow dragon like it was a parade float. What is this? He stuttered. Ochako floated by him, clutching her head. I think it's a villain musical. In the middle of it all, Shigaraki finally caught up to the group, breathless, holding onto Dabi for support. Are they winning? He asked, voice cracking. Dabi looked around at the destroyed mall, the fleeing pro-heroes, and the gleefully rampaging Sukuna and Gojo. Depends what you mean by winning, Dabi muttered. Because if chaos was the goal, then yeah. They're winning. Toga grabbed Shigaraki's sleeve, smiling wide. Can we keep them? Please. Meanwhile, Gojo noticed All Might hovering overhead in the helicopter. With a mischievous glint, he threw a cursed blade straight at the rotor. The pilot screamed, yanking the chopper away just in time to avoid disaster. All Might clung to his seat, pale. Yeah, tactical nuke sounds good. Suddenly, the ground split open as a massive black and purple portal formed. Out stepped Kurogiri, looking extremely done with everything. My apologies, Tamura Shigaraki, he said politely. It's time to retreat before reality itself collapses. Sukuna looked mildly disappointed. But I was just starting to redecorate. Gojo stretched lazily. Fine. Another time, King of Tattoos. Before the portal swallowed them, Sukuna turned to the league. You better upgrade your game, losers. Next time, I'm not holding back. Toga blew him a kiss. Dabi just flipped him off. And with that, the villains, plus one very chaotic curse, disappeared through the portal, leaving behind a destroyed mall, dozens of traumatized heroes, and a very confused Japan. As the dust settled, Gojo stood alone, adjusting his shades, whistling innocently. Endeavor marched up, seething. You are coming with us. Gojo tilted his head playfully. Sorry, can't hear you over all the winning. And with a wink and a teleport, he vanished too, leaving the pro-heroes to pick up the ruins of what used to be a perfectly normal day. In the aftermath, the ruins of the mall smoldered under the afternoon sun. Police sirens wailed, and ambulances tried weaving through collapsed walls and shattered food courts. Mount Lady groaned as she crawled out of a pancake-shaped souvenir shop, holding a squashed, I love Musudafu, hat. Eraserhead dusted himself off, staring at the empty battlefield where Gojo and Sukuna had vanished. I'm officially too old for this, he muttered, rubbing his temples. Inside a hastily set up emergency tent, All Might, Endeavor, Best Jeanist, and several battered pro-heroes gathered around a cracked monitor. A grainy surveillance video replayed Sukuna dropkicking a giant inflatable Pikachu off the mall roof. Everyone watched in dead silence. Best Jeanist adjusted his denim collar stiffly. So, we agree. That wasn't a quirk. Endeavor growled under his breath. It doesn't matter what it was. They attacked civilians. They're enemies. Period. Meanwhile, across town, deep inside the League of Villains, new hideout, a busted-up amusement park, they regrouped. Rusty rides creaked ominously in the wind. Toga was spinning around on a broken carousel, laughing. Spinner was trying to pry gum out of his armor. Dabi leaned against a cotton candy stand, burning holes into it absent-mindedly. In the middle of it all sat Sukuna, lounging like a king on a cracked bumper car throne. He tossed a stolen hero helmet up and down in his hand, smirking. Shigaraki paced back and forth, dragging his fingers through his messy hair. We can't trust him, he hissed to Dabi. He's uncontrollable. He's not even from this world. Dabi shrugged lazily. Yeah, but he's hilarious. And terrifying. Perfect for us. Toga twirled, throwing her arms wide. I say we make him vice commander. Right, Sukuna-chan. Sukuna barked a laugh. I don't take orders, Blondie. But if you're offering free carnage and chaos, I'm in. Spinner nervously raised a hand. What's your actual plan? Sukuna cracked his knuckles, eyes gleaming. Simple. We stop playing sneaky villains. We go big. We take over UA. Silence. Even Toga stopped spinning. Shigaraki stared at him like he'd grown an extra head. Ooh-ah-hi. The most heavily defended school in the country. Sukuna grinned wider. Exactly. Nobody expects idiots to attack the lion's den. Dabi snickered. Man's got a point. Shigaraki hesitated, then slowly, a wicked grin spread across his face too. Alright, King of Curses. Let's see if you're as powerful as you think. Across the city, at Ua High itself, Principal Nezu tapped his chin thoughtfully, staring at the monitor wall in his office. Several windows showed the mall destruction footage. One window showed Gojo casually photobombing a hero meeting. Another showed Sukuna carving, Ua next, into a mall wall with cursed energy. Aizawa stood stiffly behind Nezu, arms crossed. We're not ready for this. Nezu smiled cheerfully, terrifyingly. Then we will become ready. Meanwhile, Class 1A was gathered in the dorm common room, watching news footage of Sukuna's rampage on the big screen. Kirishima whistled low. Bros like, if Bakugo in a natural disaster had a baby. Bakugo immediately punched a couch cushion in half. Shut up, shitty hair. Midoriya stared at the footage with wide eyes, notebook in hand, frantically scribbling. New enemy. Unknown energy source. Possibly stronger than All Might at his peak. Potentially dimensional traveler. Strategy. Run first, ask questions later. Todoroki, sipping tea, deadpanned. Wise choice. Just then, the UA alarms blared. An automated voice echoed through the halls. Warning. Unknown entities approaching campus. All students to battle stations. Students scrambled into action. Midoriya stuffed his notebook into his bag. Iida adjusted his glasses, shouting. Everyone. Formation Epsilon. Move quickly and orderly. Outside the campus, Sukuna stood on a lamppost like a perched gargoyle, surveying the mighty walls of Ua with a look of bored amusement. Toga danced beside him, blood-stained knife twirling. Dabi cracked his neck, blue flames curling lazily from his hands. Shigaraki raised his decaying hand, ready to strike. Sukuna simply stretched his arms, grinning ear to ear. Let's go knock on the front door. And with a single cursed blast, he shattered the reinforced entrance gates of Ua into dust, laughing wildly as sirens screamed and the greatest battle yet was about to begin. The rubble of UA's front gate rained down like confetti as dust clouds swallowed the entrance. Inside, Aizawa gritted his teeth and activated his quirk, red eyes narrowing. Everyone, defensive positions. Protect the first years. Midnight stepped up beside him, cracking her whip. Looks like we're throwing a welcome party. Out of the smoke walked Sukuna first, hands stuffed in the pockets of a stolen Ua gym uniform, grinning like he already owned the place. Behind him, Toga skipped, spinning two blood-dripping knives. Dabi strolled casually, fire dancing across his shoulders. Shigaraki dragged his fingers across a wall, leaving decay marks wherever he touched. Sukuna lifted his hand lazily and fired a cursed slash at a security turret, slicing it in half before it could even beep. He cracked his neck loudly. Is this it? I've been attacked harder by angry grandmas. From the main building, Class 1A and the pro heroes burst into the courtyard like a tidal wave. Deku, Bakugo, Todoroki, Iida, Uraraka, Kirishima, all battle ready. Behind them, All Might, Gran Torino, Mirko, Hawks, and Best Jeanist followed. Midoriya gulped, analyzing everything Sukuna did in real time. His energy, it's completely different from any quirk signature. It's unstable, like it's alive. Bakugo, meanwhile, cracked his knuckles, grinning maniacally. Don't care what he is. I'm blowing his ugly face off. Sukuna spotted Bakugo charging and tilted his head mockingly. Ah, look, a barking Pomeranian. Bakugo exploded forward, throwing a grenade-sized blast straight at Sukuna's chest. With a bored look, Sukuna slapped the explosion aside with his cursed energy, sending Bakugo crashing into a nearby tree like a bug on a windshield. Kirishima winced. Man's not even trying. Meanwhile, Toga spotted Uraraka and squealed. Gravity girl. Let's have a slumber party, blood optional. She leapt forward, knives flashing. Uraraka activated her zero gravity, dodging nimbly, while Iida rushed in with a blinding burst of Recipro Turbo. Toga somersaulted over him, giggling madly. Dabi strolled toward Todoroki, blue flames coiling around him. So, little brother. Ready for some family bonding? Todoroki narrowed his eyes coldly. I'm going to put you down like a wild dog. Flames and ice clashed in the middle of the battlefield, steam rising so fast it created its own miniature storm cloud. At the heart of the chaos, Sukuna cracked his knuckles and grinned at the approaching All Might. Finally, Sukuna said, excited. Someone worth punching. All Might powered up, muscles swelling, his presence cracking the ground around him. I am here, and you will not harm these students. Sukuna barked a laugh. Big words, skeleton. Their clash rocked the entire campus. All Might's fist collided with Sukuna's cursed energy shield, the impact creating a shockwave that flattened nearby trees and flipped several cars. Students had to brace themselves against walls to avoid being thrown away like leaves. Up on the rooftops, Gojo suddenly appeared, sipping bubble tea through a straw. He watched the carnage unfold, eyes glinting behind his blindfold. Solid 9/10 mayhem. Nezu appeared next to him on a hover drone, arms crossed. You brought this chaos to my school. Gojo shrugged. Technically, he fell through a portal. I just followed. Nezu rubbed his tiny chin thoughtfully. Would you be interested in teaching a class? Gojo slurped his tea loudly. Do I get to mess with Endeavor? Frequently, Nezu smiled. Gojo grinned. Sign me up. Back on the battlefield, Sukuna was treating the pro-heroes like action figures, tossing them through walls and blasting cursed attacks that cracked the ground open. He caught Gran Torino mid-dash, twirled him like a baton, and threw him into Smentos. Mirko landed a spinning kick to Sukuna's jaw, only for Sukuna to grin wider, blood trickling down his lip. Finally, some spice. He responded with a backhand that sent her smashing through 3 reinforced walls. Deku, gritting his teeth, activated full cowl at 45%, green lightning crackling around him. We can't beat him alone. He shouted. Everyone, together. A dozen students launched themselves at once, Bakugo firing explosions, Todoroki unleashing a massive wall of ice and fire, Uraraka sending debris floating around Sukuna to disorient him. Even Mineta, sobbing, hurled sticky balls with wild desperation. Sukuna laughed, a deep, booming sound that echoed across Ua. You think this is enough to stop a king? He activated his domain expansion, a shimmering barrier of cursed energy forming a twisted throne room in the middle of Ua grounds. The students and heroes inside felt a crushing pressure bearing down on them. Outside the dome, Gojo yawned. Guess it's my turn. With a lazy stretch, he activated his own domain expansion, Infinite Void, and superimposed it over Sukuna's domain, creating a clash of realities so wild even Nezu had to duck behind his desk. Inside the dueling domains, Sukuna turned to see Gojo floating nearby, sipping his tea still. You just had to one-up me, Sukuna growled. Gojo smiled serenely. It's called style, my guy. And with that, the real fight began, Sukuna versus Gojo versus literally everyone else. Reality itself buckled as the greatest showdown Ua had ever seen erupted in blinding, chaotic, and hilarious fury. Inside the clashing domains, reality twisted like a wrung-out towel. Floors became ceilings. Air shimmered with cursed energy. Sukuna lunged at Gojo first, a savage grin plastered on his face, slashing with claws wreathed in black lightning. Gojo barely moved, leaning to the side with casual grace, Sukuna's attack missing by millimeters. Gojo twirled his finger in the air. You're gonna have to try harder, tattoo Makanger issues. Sukuna snarled and fired a cursed arrow of raw hatred. Gojo caught it between 2 fingers and flicked it back like a paper airplane, causing a small cursed explosion behind Sukuna. Meanwhile, outside the domains, the Ua campus looked like a war zone. Smoke and fire billowed into the sky. Recovery Girl was sprinting around at cartoonish speed trying to patch up battered students. Snipe had set up a sniper nest in a ruined dorm tower, pelting cursed creatures Sukuna had spawned with quirk-enhanced rubber bullets. In the chaos, Aoyama posed dramatically, firing his naval laser sky-high. For the glory of youth and sparkles. No one paid attention. Midoriya, bruised but not broken, rallied the other students. Behind him, listen up, he shouted, his voice cracking slightly from exhaustion. We need to distract Sukuna while Gojo-sensei fights him. Buy them time. Bakugo scoffed, popping his knuckles. TCH. Fine, but I'm blowing something up first. Deku nodded. We'll hit him from the outside. Use coordinated attacks. We can't let him focus on one spot. On cue, Class 1A sprang into action. Yaoyorozu created giant cannons loaded with capture nets. Ishido coated the ground in acid puddles. Zero zip-lined between buildings, spraying adhesive tape everywhere like a hyperactive Spider-Man. Inside the domain, Sukuna was starting to notice the interference. Chunks of his cursed throne cracked as nets, blasts, and glue bombs pelted it from outside. He growled low. Pesky little gnats. Gojo, floating lazily midair, sipped the last of his bubble tea. Yeah, welcome to Hero School, buddy. Sukuna snapped. With a roar, he expanded his cursed energy outward, the throne exploding into thousands of black tendrils that tore through the air, each one hunting for a target. Midoriya barely dodged one tendril, the shockwave sending him tumbling. Todoroki froze another tendril mid-snap, only for two more to shatter the ice immediately. Toga and Dabi watched from a distance. Toga clapped her hands excitedly. This is better than TV. Dabi, leaning against a burnt wall, smirked. Yeah, shame we're on the same side. Otherwise, I'd be roasting marshmallows on that freak. Suddenly, a bright explosion lit up the sky, Bakugo flying straight at Sukuna like a human missile, palms detonating violently. Hey, ugly, eat this. Sukuna, caught off guard, was forced to block. The blast rocked the center of his domain, causing cracks to spiderweb through the cursed space. Gojo chuckled. Nice. Let's turn up the volume. With a snap of his fingers, Gojo expanded Infinite Void, overwhelming Sukuna's domain with pure information overload. Sukuna gritted his teeth, staggering slightly under the sensory flood. Midoriya saw his chance. He yelled to everyone, now. Full power. At once, every student, hero, and half the freaking building unleashed everything they had. Massive ice walls, explosions, lasers, vines, sticky balls, acid showers, hardening charges, dark shadow attacks, the entire arsenal of Ua thrown at Sukuna in a tidal wave of desperation and fury. For a moment, just a moment, Sukuna staggered under the combined force. A huge blast rocked the ground, the domains collapsed, and a massive dust cloud engulfed everything. Silence. Coughing and groaning filled the air as students and heroes crawled out from the rubble, blinking through the smoke. Standing at the center, covered in dust, hair ruffled, and half of his gym shirt burned off, was Sukuna. He looked around at the devastation, the dozens of half-conscious students, the pro-heroes slumped against walls, and Gojo still floating lazily with his hands in his pockets. Sukuna cracked his neck, blood dripping from his mouth. And laughed. Hell yeah, he grinned, wiping his face. Now this is entertainment. Everyone braced themselves, thinking he was about to unleash another hellstorm. Instead, Sukuna casually plopped down onto a half-broken piece of wall, crossing his arms behind his head. Alright, I'm bored. You win this round, nerds. He smirked at Gojo. But next time, I'm taking your stupid blindfold. Gojo gave him a lazy thumbs up. Bring a ladder, shorty. The students blinked in disbelief as Sukuna, king of curses, simply lounged there like a sunbathing cat, ignoring everyone. Shigaraki stumbled out from the ruins of a cotton candy cart, looking furious. You're supposed to be helping us conquer Ua, not getting your ass kicked by children. Sukuna yawned loudly. Change of plans. I'm transferring. Toga squealed. Yay, new student. This is gonna be so much fun. Dabi lit a cigarette, smirking. Hope the school's insurance covers demon warfare. And so, under a sky filled with smoke, laughter, and complete disbelief, the most dangerous villain ever casually announced his unofficial enrollment at Ua High. Whether anyone could survive it, was another question entirely. Sukuna lounged back against the crumbling wall, unbothered by the chaos around him. He was clearly enjoying this strange new world. Well, this was entertaining, Sukuna said lazily, brushing dust from his shirt, ignoring the glares from Shigaraki and the disarray left behind. You know, for all the hype, you heroes and villains are just so predictable. Gojo floated down beside him, tapping his chin thoughtfully. Honestly, Sukuna, I thought you'd put up more of a fight. Did all that time in the Jujutsu world make you a bit too rusty? Sukuna shot him a sidelong glance. I didn't ask for this, and yet here I am. Guess I'll have to make my own fun. His smirk returned. But you heroes are a special breed, aren't you? Too much heart and not enough finesse. Before anyone could respond, a strange rumbling echoed beneath their feet, a deep vibration that shook the campus to its very core. Deku's eyes widened, and his fingers clenched into fists. That wasn't us. Todoroki looked up, eyes scanning the horizon. Something's coming. Gojo's grin faltered, his playful demeanor shifting to something far more serious. You all might want to move back. This doesn't feel right. Then, out of nowhere, a massive shadow blotted out the sun, a gargantuan figure looming on the edge of the campus. Sukuna raised an eyebrow, standing up slowly, his grin widening. Huh, now this is what I call a challenge. The figure moved closer, the ground shaking beneath its feet with each step. Its form was massive, dark, and monstrous, more terrifying than anything Sukuna had ever seen. Whatever it was coming for them. And it wasn't human. Sukuna cracked his knuckles, his cursed energy flaring to life. Gojo, looks like we've got company. Gojo adjusted his blindfold, his calm exterior cracking slightly as he felt the overwhelming energy approaching. Yeah, it seems like it. The heroes and students stood in formation, preparing for whatever nightmare was coming their way. Midoriya, barely able to control his shaking hands, called out to his friends. We have to work together. Whatever that is, we can't take it on alone. Bakugo snorted, staring at the dark silhouette. Just another thing to blow up, right? But the air grew heavy, and the figure drew closer, casting an eerie shadow over the school grounds. Sukuna turned toward the oncoming danger, eyes gleaming with twisted amusement. Now this is starting to feel interesting. And just as the colossal figure moved into the full view, the camera zoomed in on a pair of red glowing eyes, an unsettling smile twisting across its face. To be continued. Thanks for watching, folks. Hope you enjoyed this first part. If we hit 40 likes, I'll be sure to drop part 2 with even more chaos, action, and twists. Until then, stay safe, and remember, anything can happen when Sukuna's around.